more than just being a brand name, what is, our competition uses American Standard, Carrier, why Trane? And, and what sort of, not necessarily to tell our customers so that we know what sort of cost difference would it be if I called you guys up and said, hey, I need to save some money, give me a more value option. Like what sort of, because what we're trying to do is build value. We're trying to show why our houses have value.
Right now, we have effective pricing that eliminates any other brand getting in with you guys.
No, I know, but I'm talking from a sales, I'm not talking I want to, I'm just saying, comparing this house to a competitor's house that use Carrier, what's the benefit of a Trane?
Oh, well, a Trane unit, I mean, it's the outdoor unit that's the huge difference. So they have their patented, what's called a spine fin coil, okay? And the spine fin coil keeps its efficiency longer than a standard, what they call a tube and fin. So a tube and fin coil is assembled like this. And over time, heat and expansion expands those parts. So they don't make as good a contact. The spine fin is woven like a rope around the coil. So it always stays tight.
Gotcha.
See, over time, they don't lose their efficiency.
Okay, good. So that's in the outside.
That's the big difference. Now, American Standard is the same as a Trane.
Yeah.
So that you can't go against on that. They're basically the same.
Same
brand.
company,
Just-
right? Just different level of.
Way it is Trane is factory direct. American Standard is bought at a local vendor. Anybody can buy it. So it means that they may not have the same training as we have with Trane. Trane is factory training.
So that
Things like
that
that.
speaks to installation then, so that I could install a Trane.
Anybody can buy American Standard.
But Trane, you have to be, so that just speaks to the quality of the subcontractors that we use,
Right.
is that only qualified people can buy Trane equipment because they want to keep their name at the top of the list. So they're not going to let just anybody buy. Yeah.
And Scott, from spray foam, from my understanding, the same thing. A lot of people can go ahead and buy the chemicals and spray foam out, but all their technicians have to go all these classes and get tested because the mixing of those chemicals and the application is the most important. It's not the name chemicals.
Yeah.
It's for the gun. It's all the process and having great people like that.
Okay, good. Well, that's
Carrier. So I have two units in my house. So I have a Carrier and I've got a Trane. Okay? I've had to replace numerous components on my Carrier over the last 5 years, and my Trane, which I put in a year and a half ago or so, runs like a Trane. Is that what you're typically seeing, or is that an anomaly, or is the replacements and maintenance of the Carrier is typically more than it would be a
If
Trane?
you look at the build of a Carrier unit,
Okay.
I'm not picking on Carrier, but if you look at the build of it compared to the build of a Trane unit, the Trane unit is a lot more solid. The appeal of it's solid. Just everything they use, the way they do it, the coating on it's is like an enamel, or what do they do for their finish? They did something different with their finish of their unit.
Powder
Well,
coating?
it's close to a powder coating. It's not just, they don't just paint them. It's gone through a process, just almost like an automobile goes through.
It's baked on.
Yeah, it's baked
Right.
on, exactly.
It's just it's a rugged unit. You don't usually typically the compressors they use. I think they're still using Copeland's in there.
I'm not sure.
So I mean they're using good components in there. It's not Japanese, Chinese knockoff crap.
I've heard people say, oh, Trane isn't what Trane used to be. Trane used to, but nobody can do it, and they have a builder grade and a regular grade. Is that a true
They
statement?
actually
There's
did
a
away
builder.
with the builder grade a couple of years ago. Those were
But they did. They went away with it.
the light grade units.
Yeah.
They went away from that. They had a builder grade and then they had their regular, but they, went away from it. I don't know why.
Is Trane still owned by United Technologies?
Ingersoll Rand.
Now Ingersoll Rand bought Trane, but now Trane has separated themselves from Ingersoll Rand, and it's now actually called Trane Technologies.
They're built down in Texas?
Yeah, everything stays the same as far as manufacturing, all that kind of stuff. They are no longer owned by Ingersoll Rand.
Right.
It's the way we understand it.
Another thing that I think we might do differently than some of our competition is and I've personally witnessed this at my house, is they don't look at a set of plans and design an HVAC unit, you know, they come here, see which way the houses is facing, see which way the light's coming in, and then lay out a system. And like I said, I've personally witnessed it. It is not a short process. There is a lot of thought that goes into it. You know, thermostats aren't placed, you know, in some random location. And that's why in one shack where banks it might be in one place, but in a different shack where banks it might be in a different place because of all the factors that they take into account that I don't even know about.
But is that something only we do, or is that like a code thing, everybody has to upfit their system, so it's, I don't, you know.
I think someone had a preference where they wanted it.
I'm gonna brag on George, cause we used to use Odyssey, and I'm gonna say this. The guy couldn't chew gum and walk. He had like 5 ducts in this great room. He had one in the pantry. You know, I mean, it made no rhyme or reason where the stuff is. He had stuff on mid-wall, okay? Not only is it the function, it's the aesthetics and,
Right, yeah.
Dave, or, George, it just, there's a real process. I mean, you have a computer that you pump in all the,
We have a load we run on.
Yeah, so we do load planning on the computer, but the computer doesn't tell you everything.
okay.
You have to have that knowledge,
training
that,
knowledge.
you know, on-site knowledge of, okay, is the house, you know, next door is, you know, 20 feet away, and then the way the sun's gonna land, that whole wall is not gonna see the afternoon sun. Well, in the computer program, it doesn't know that there's another house there.
That's worst case.
So, we use that as a guide. It's not set in stone on the way everything is done.
And I think how you can explain that is kind of, hey, it's the Hagen right way of doing it. You know, other people may or may not do it, but this is how we do it. Every single HVAC system is designed for the house as it sits on your lot, not as it sits on a set of
Right.
blueprints on my desk. You know,
How long you seen it? How long is a train lasting nowadays?
The average train life,
10,
let's say
15?
15 years is the life expectancy. Now, if they go with the XV system, the life expectancy on that is 20 plus. So that's
Wow.
another thing that, you step up to the 18, you're not only getting efficiency, you're getting a system that should last you 20 years plus, because it has onboard diagnostics. If something goes wrong, it's gonna shut itself off and say, hey, fix me, instead of keep running and tear something else up in the system.
So how much does it cost to tear out a heat pump and air handler in a 10-year-old house and put a new system in?
It
I
depends.
mean, is it $8,000?
For an
You're doing
XP,
XP.
No, no, just say, hey, I've got a 12-seer,
Average
2.5
3-ton.
ton unit, and it finally burned out. I need to put a new unit. What is the replacement cost of that?
let's say an average price for a 3-ton change out is around 65 to 7,000 for a
So
train.
I'm trying to get to is, hey, if the 15 seer is gonna last 10 to 15, and the 18 is gonna last 20, okay?
Exactly.
Yeah, where's your return come
You're-
back? Like-
You're smart, because that's the way I think.
Yeah,
So it's like somebody puts in a standard 14 seer carrier. The average lifespan probably I've seen, because we've changed a lot of them out, 10 to 12 years. So now in that 20-year span, you've gone through 2 units. You've actually paid more money and spent more on electricity if you keep the house. You know, it does have to do with that too, if you're gonna stay.
I think that's our customer base
Longevity.
though.
Absolutely.
They're long term.
Mhm.
And it's not gonna break when it's a nice day, it's gonna break when it's 100 degrees outside.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, one thing I wanna bring up, the way we set up everything, as far as like our air handlers, remember, at any time, like if you don't make an upgrade sale on the actual, you know, signing of your documents or whatever you do, you can still do it towards the end. I mean, if we're in final stage and we're, setting grills, you say, hey George, they want to do an XV, so that air handler, the way we size everything, the way we put them in, it will work with the Trane XV system.
You can revisit it before,
Yeah.
before we set the outdoor equipment. If you revisit it with them, just double check with them. Say, hey, are you sure you don't wanna upgrade this system to the XV system? You know?
so everything's compatible.
Yes, the inside part is compatible with any outdoor unit. We did that purposely.
How many zones are your boards? How many zones are our standard board right now?
You can do up to 4 zones on the board, and we can do expander board like we did for lot 18.
It depends on the house. So we've set those guidelines, I think, in our sheet there that we have set up.
So 4 zones. So
That's the max we can
so
do.
if you don't have a sunroom, and you say, hey, at some point, hey, we're living in our house, I only wanted to do 2 zones, but you're right, Patrick, I should've got that extra dang zone. You guys can come in and drop another thermostat, another wire in, we all have to replace the board.
We
Well,
don't
you
even
got
have to do
wireless
a wires,
sensors.
you do a wireless sensor.